Hello, you know what time it is? It's time for templates. I've made just a few minor changes to the application which really aren't material, but I'll just briefly cover them, and then we're going to go export what we currently have into some templates that we can use going forward to quickly start with where we are right now. So one change is VSTO app events, which is really the thing that keeps track of our events being fired by the application. I've modified that to where all it does is just display event in watch window if display events is set in the UI. I've added, and maybe you already had this, I've added a new class called AddIn application events, and these are the events that the VSTO add-in specifically handles to do different things, whether it's the marker event, the QMarker event handler, or the handlers for the page or shape changed or move into a new window to zoom in and out. So that way going forward you know that anything that the application is really doing is in add-in application events, and only if you want to see events that VSTO are firing so you can kind of learn more do you really need to worry about VSTO app events. And then the UI remains the same. If you check enable app events, you get VSTO app events instantiated, and then you can separately display events or chatty events. I may tweak this a little bit, but all the events that matter for the substance of the application are now in add-in application events. I've checked in the code. I really don't think there's any need to set a tag for what we're going to do here because we're really going to focus on exporting templates. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on VSTO AddIn, and I'm going to come over to the File menu, and there's an option here. Oh, there is no option to export template. Well, let's go add that first. If we come to Extensions, Customize menu, Commands, pick the File menu. We're going to add a command, and the command we want to add is in the project area, and the name of the command we want to add is export template. So commands, File menu bar, project, category, command is export template. We're going to click OK, and it's put it right at the top. I'm going to move it down underneath new and open, so we'll move that down, close. So now if we come to the File menu, we have a export template option. And with our new export template option in place, let's click on VSTO AddIn, export template, and just save all the files. So you have two choices when you use the export template wizard. You can export a project template, which is what you use to create a new project, or you can export an item template, which is what you would use to add a limited set of content to an existing project. So we're going to export a project template. We're going to pick VSTO AddIn. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this kind of quickly because I want to get to the challenges in exporting templates when you try to use them. So we're going to just call this something created like VSTO AddIn template used to create a new VSTO add-in. Use with VSTO add-in application template. That'll be when we export our other project. If you leave this checked, import template into Visual Studio will automatically import the template so you can immediately see it. Otherwise you have to exit Visual Studio and come back in. And by default, a copy gets put in Documents, Visual Studio version, My Exported Templates. So we'll just go ahead and just copy that so I can save myself some typing. So actually this is going to be the longer one. So we'll go ahead and finish. And sure enough, there's our template in the exported template folder. I'm going to come to the other project. I'm going to export that as a template, project template. Going to pick the add-in application one. Use to create new VSTO add-in application. Use with VSTO add-in template, so kind of the other side. You can call these anything you want. Okay, so we have these two zip files. Now, those of you that are familiar with adding your own custom templates or changing your project template folder may be familiar with this, but let's go backwards before we try to use these and look at some Visual Studio options that are important to understand once you start playing around with templates. So in Projects and Solutions, Locations, you can set locations for all your projects, where you want to get additional project templates from, and where you want to get additional item templates from. So I've got a location on my machine for project templates, and just ignore the A, and item templates. So I'm going to probably got way too many. So this is the exported template folder we saw. And then I'm also going to open this so you can see it. So Visual Studio 2002 templates, Project A templates. So here's a folder. Here's a set of folders that got created as soon as I told Visual Studio, look in this other location. And the same thing for item templates. But if we go back there, so what you'll see is, in addition to the exported template folder, the two templates we created got dropped here. So let's go look inside these files, and just to repeat myself ad nauseum, these two zip files and these two zip files are identical. They got created by Visual Studio. These two got created because Visual Studio knows that user project templates are stored here. I don't think these are used in any way other than just existing so you can see them. So I'm going to go ahead and test my understanding and delete those. And yeah, I don't think we have any other. Oh, yeah. So we'll leave that so we can reference it. So let's go look inside this zip file and see what this is all about. So I'm going to open it up with, I use 7-zip. And what you'll see is the contents of this zip file. The contents of the zip file is identical to the contents of the project that it was based upon when you exported it. So we got a couple folders here, properties and references. There's a this add-in file there, common ribbon. So common ribbon, the background files, ribbon VSTO add-in, that file's right there. So all the files in our project come along, and in addition, there's a new file called mytemplate.visualstudiotemplate. Instead of opening it from inside the zip file, I'm going to go out to the file system to do this. So it's all the files in your project plus this mytemplate.visualstudiotemplate. So if we come back to the template folder, the add-in application template looks the same. Now, Visual Studio, I believe, ships with most all of its templates in zip files, but they work just fine if you unzip them. So if you created your own, for example, Visual C# templates, you could put it in this folder and Visual Studio would recognize it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unzip these two templates. So I'm going to extract this to VSTO add-in template. I'm going to extract this to add-in application template. So now we have these two folders, and I don't know what happens if you have both a folder and a similar name template. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these zip files. Visual Studio works just fine with the zip files, but you'll soon see why it's handy to have them in an unzipped state. So I go ahead and delete those. And now let's go look at these. So this is the VSTO add-in template. This is the AddIn application template. So these files should look very similar from the projects in Visual Studio. Let's go open up the two template files, the mytemplate.vs template, and get a sense. Just close this other stuff for a sec. Okay, so the mytemplate.visual studio template from the VS AddIn template, let's make this a little bigger. So what it has is it's got some structure, including a few things. The default name of any project that's going to be built from the template, so in this case VSTO AddIn template. The project type, so it thinks the project type is going to be a C# project. We can change that to something else. We'll see that in a minute. And then template content references all the different files that are going to come across. So we've got the project template file, and then inside that we've got a file called common. And if you look at this a little bit closer, it's got a target name for what's going to get created, the file it's going to be based upon, and whether replace parameter is true. Visual Studio, out of the box, project and item template parameters. What you can do, and we're going to see this in just a minute, is you can parameterize the content files with these items that you wrap in, I believe, $signs. So the one we're going to use here is safe project name, but all these are available, and this is just documentation from Microsoft, learnmicrosoft.com, template parameters. So we're going to come back to that in a minute, but replace parameters true means use template parameters inside the files if they exist. So what I'm going to do is we'll just leave these folders available for a second. We'll come back to our solution. We'll close the solution. And we're going to go create new projects using our templates. So if we search for templates, we'll clear all filters. And, well, they're right at the top, but we could search for VSTO AddIn template, VSTO AddIn application template. So we're going to start with VSTO AddIn template, and there's the text we put in the description. And we're going to call it my VSTO AddIn. It's going to put it in some arbitrary location. It looks like I got some stuff there. Let me go clear that out real quick. Okay, so we're going to call this my VSTO AddIn. So now we have a new project called my VSTO AddIn. Nothing seems very surprising about that. It works the same way you're used to with Visual Studio templates. So now we're going to come and add another new project, and we're going to use the AddIn application template. So we're going to call this my VSTO AddIn application. And you remember from our original code that we had a AddIn project and we had an AddIn application. So my VSTO AddIn, my VSTO AddIn application. So now we've got two projects that have been created that have essentially identical code from what we had before. Now I'm going to go ahead and compile this, and you're going to see that we're going to get some errors. But one thing you'll notice right away is the my VSTO AddIn is looking for a that's the name of the old project. So let's go, just for now, remove that, go add a new reference, because we know we need a reference to that project, my VSTO AddIn application. So we'll go add a project reference. And now let's just rebuild and see where we are. Oops, looks like we got some errors here. So in my VSTO AddIn, our new add-in, in the common file, it says it couldn't find VSTO AddIn application. Oh, okay. The code from the previous project that we used for the export was referencing VSTO AddIn application. So we really need to change that to my VSTO AddIn application. That's this other project down here. And I know I'm obsessed about keeping the uppercase I's. So let's try rebuilding again. Oh my gosh, more errors. So I know what they are. So we're going to go ahead, just grab that and go see what we got here. Yep, sure enough, it's the same thing. It's the old name. Oops, we're missing an N. Looks like I didn't copy quite enough. Okay, so let's try one more time. All right, so it seems like it worked. Let's go look at a couple other things real quick. Let's go to Properties, come down to where we're going to publish the VSTO add-in, go into Options. Oh, it's not called VSTO add-in anymore. It's called My VSTO add-in. And I think, yep, there's another place in Office Settings, My VSTO add-in. Okay. So now if we run it, we got My Cool Stuff. So that's the way we left the name of the menu. If we come down to File, Options, Com add-ins, My VSTO add-in. Okay, so it looks like we're getting our new add-in. And it really wasn't very much work using the templates to basically get back to where we were. We had to make a few coding changes to reflect the new names of the application. Let's go see if we can address that, because that's still way too much work to have to go through. So let's close the solution. And we'll come back to where our templates are located. And I think the files we had to change common. So let's go edit that file. Now, just to be sure you understand where we are, we're in the template folder that Visual Studio knows that our user templates are located in. We're in the VSTO AddIn template file folder. So we're going to edit common, and you see how it automatically knew to replace some of the things. So we're going to go grab safe project name. So Visual Studio put this in because it's the identical name of the thing we exported, but it didn't know to change this one. So we're going to go change this to safe project name application. And then I forgot, what was the other file? I think it was it this add-in? Yeah. So we're going to go change that to safe project name, safe project name, and there was one more. Where is it? Okay, so we've corrected the files in that they're parameterized. So now, I know we're missing one more, but I just want to show you kind of this as an iterative process. So we come back to Visual Studio, and we create a new project. We'll use the add-in template. It keeps track of templates you've recently used. So we'll use the VSTO add-in template. We'll call this My VSTO add-in 2. And we'll put it in the application folder. Doesn't matter where we put it. Oh, I know what it was. And then we're going to go add a new project using the application template. My VSTO add-in 2 application. I know there was one more we missed. Oh, yeah, we got to go. Well, let's go fix that. So we got to go change the project reference. Well, where would that be? Well, this is an old style Visual Studio project. It's not an SDK style, so it's going to be in the, well, it doesn't matter if it's new or old. It's in the same location. It's in the C# project file. So let's go close this. And where's the project file? There it is, VSTO AddIn. So let's make it easier on ourselves. Let's go search for VSTO AddIn. Well, we may want to come back and change the name of the icon file, but we'll just leave that. Project reference. Okay, so here's where it's referencing the project, and it's looking for VSTO AddIn. So we want to change this to $safe project name. And somewhere, is there a published location? Generated code name VSTO, generated code namespace VSTO AddIn. I think this is where it is. Safe project name. This add-in designer, template path. Okay, I think that's where the publish information is. So let's just do a quick search. VSTO AddIn. That's the icon. Okay, so if we save this, so we've added the safe project name inside the project file. And I don't remember if we're going to see that in locations that Visual Studio put. Oh, yeah. So Visual Studio parameterized the project file, root namespace, assembly name. So it did some of the work, but it doesn't know all the places where we want safe project name. So it already did some of the work for us. All right, so we've saved the file, and now once more with feeling, we'll come back to Visual Studio, new project. We use the add-in template, my VSTO AddIn X for special. And let's go add let's just type it ourselves. So now, with a little bit of luck, there, my VSTO AddIn X application, so it's referencing the right project. And now if we run it, oh, we missed something. I missed something. You didn't miss anything. Oh, this is the one I missed, ribbon. Okay, so in the ribbon file, what is that, ribbon.cs? So in ribbon.cs, so $safe project name. So that should be good now. We got the project file fixed. We fixed this add-in. We fixed comment. We've taken a quick look at how the template files, the manifest files work. So basically all the files you want to include in content, and replace parameters says whether you should do parameter substitution. Not going to do any parameter substitution on the private key file. Okay. So even though you kind of know how this is going to end, create a new project, template, cool VSTO AddIn. Go add a new application project. Cool VSTO AddIn application. That's our kind of naming convention. I'm not even going to check. I'm just going to run it. Oh my goodness gracious. Now what? Okay. I think it's just because it didn't restore the NuGet packages. Okay, there we go. Run it. Come down to VSTO. Oh, we've got two my cool stuffs. Well, hopefully that makes sense, because if we come to File, Options, Add-ins, Com Add-ins, we've got my VSTO Add-in and VSTO Add-in. This is, for some reason, this didn't get changed to my cool add-in. I'm not quite sure why that is. Well, maybe it's getting the published name from the name of the project. Okay, we may have to just live with that. So back in Visual Studio, you'll have to go into Properties and change the published name of the add-in. All right. Before we finish this somewhat random thing on Visual Studio project templates, let me show you one more thing and clear out some of these folders. So in my project template folder, I have a folder here called VNC, and it's got all sorts of different project templates that I've created over time. So here's one that creates a Prism application. Here's one that creates a Prism application using Entity Framework. So without explaining much, I'm going to come into Visual Studio, create a new project, and we're going to search for, and this is really what I wanted to show you, we're going to search for project types. So VNC PT for VNC project template. We're going to use this VNC project template. It's going to create an application using Prism, DevExpress, and Entity Framework. We'll call this Wow1. And it opens up a template wizard that I created. And it's not so much that I created this, but it's possible to create these things. And you can have additional parameters that you want substituted. So the name of the application is Wow1, and without explaining what this does, it's going to use cats, and cats like to play with a mouse. And because we know this application is going to get fancy over time, I've split it into a couple projects. We're also going to use I think this is the one I want, Application Core Entity Framework. So wow1.core. It remembers, because I'm still in the same session of Visual Studio, the parameters I used. And so what you should see here, these I think are artifacts, is it created a whole bunch of code. We've got cats, so it renames files. It knows how to, using safe project names, pass parameters in. So cat came from the custom add-in, and the reason there's a few errors is probably not important, but you can get really fancy with your project templates. And because, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you, inside, and it doesn't really matter which one, this is simply another one, inside the my template Visual Studio template file. It's just a lot more of what you've already seen. It's this one over here. It's set the project type to be VNCPT, which is why we could search for it pretty quickly in Visual Studio. And these are all just the different files it's going to do parameter substitution on. And then the only new thing is it calls custom code in a class called VNC VS Project Wizard. And this custom code is what pops up that UI and asks for input, and then drives all the other stuff, which is including replacing parameters and renaming files. So there you go, a hopefully not completely confusing whirlwind tour of creating project templates using Visual Studio, so you can get back to a starting point very quickly and not have to follow along and build it up from scratch. If you have questions or would like to learn more about Visual Studio custom templates, please put some comments below. The next thing I want to do is what I've really been trying to do with this whole sequence is very self-serving. I've wanted to rewrite Support Tools Visio to kind of clean up some detritus of the last 15 or 20 years, which is probably when that thing started, and I thought I might do that by creating these hacked together videos about creating VSTO add-ins. So hopefully you're getting some benefit out of it if you'd like to kind of steer the direction. But the next thing I was intending to do is add to kind of where we are using the starting templates is I want to add support for WPF, and I want to add support for Prism, because I know I'm going to use those in the final product. Those of you that are not familiar with WPF, not familiar with Prism, this is probably not going to be useful to you. If you are familiar with WPF and you are familiar with what Prism adds to the WPF application space, you might be interested. Thanks for watching.